field. It encourages progressive thought and service. And whatever income, as I said earlier, that the wife brings in is hers unless she chooses to contribute to the family. However, it's the man's obligation to provide for the family. Now let's talk a little bit about modesty in Islam. Modesty is encouraged in all Abrahamic faiths, Greek Orthodox women, Jewish traditions, Muslim women. The hair of a woman is said to be one of her forms of glory, and to cover it out of modesty. And we are not separate as Muslim women from society. We are not separated as a result of our hijab. This does not make us different, this simple article of clothing. Actually, if you guys look this up after the talk, Hasidic Jews, now they cover their hair. Some choose to wear an article of clothing around their hair, and other women choose to wear a wig, which is contrary to the Islamic perspective, but still nonetheless trying to abide by the tenets of covering one's hair. Catholic nuns also do so, obviously. We've seen in the Sister Act. Just kidding. You guys are probably too young for that. Yeah. Anyway, so, and modesty transcends to men as well. I mean, it's not just a thing intrinsic to women. You know, men need to dress modestly, and they need to have modest behavior. And also another thing that I want to say, in that Islam, there's no compulsion in religion. La ikraha fi din. You know, there's no compulsion in religion in chapter 2 of the Quran. And so no one can feel obligated, no one should be made to feel obligated to wear the hijab or to do anything because of force other than the desire to please her Lord. Or for men and women, the desire to please their Lord, the desire to abide by those tenets that God has given to us. Because we ultimately are going to answer to God, and it's up to us to decide. And it's really a bad move for society to force women to wear hijab, because the consequence is that women end up turning away from Islam, and they, because we turn away from the simple idea of allowing people to choose to worship God. That's really the main issue out there, I think, is to really allow it to be a personal choice. And then other things I want to go into here shortly is, okay, so, to cut down on a few things, sorry guys. Okay, so this unempowered image of a woman sheltered by her burqa, or whatever like that means, is really completely inaccurate. Muslim women have rights, and it's sad that this image is not what our present really reflects. Since 1988, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Mali, Pakistan, Kosovo, Senegal, and Turkey have all been led at some point by a Muslim woman president or prime minister. Juxtapose this to Hillary Clinton, who ran for president in the US in 2008 and noted in her concession speech, "I am a woman, and like millions of women, I know there are still barriers and biases out there, often unconscious, and I want to build an America that respects and embraces the potential of every last one of us." So I hope that one day America will follow in those countries' footsteps in that regard. And just to give a few more examples of modern Muslim female leaders, let's look at Anoushi Ansari, who was born 1968, she's still alive, 66, sorry. In 2006, Anoushi became the first Muslim woman in space. And when asked about what she hoped to achieve on her space flight, she said, "I hope to inspire everyone, especially young people, women and young girls all over the world and in the Middle Eastern countries that do not provide women with the same opportunities as men, to not give up on their dreams and to pursue them. It may seem impossible to them at times, but I believe they can realize their dreams if they keep it in their hearts, nurture it, and look for opportunities and make those opportunities happen." Let's look at Shireen Ebadi from Iran. In 2003, Shireen became the first Muslim woman to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. As a judge in Iran, she was the first woman to achieve Chief Justice status, and however she was dismissed from this position after the 1979 revolution. As a lawyer, Shireen has taken on many controversial cases, and as a result has been arrested numerous times. But her activism has been predicated on her view that an interpretation of Islam that is in harmony with equality and democracy is an authentic expression of faith. It is not religion that binds women, but the selective dictates of those who wish them cloistered. So let's not look to CNN or Fox News to define a Muslim woman, or to define femininity even. Let's look at that. I mean, what does it mean to really be a feminine woman? And let's look at our definition of equality. What does it mean to be equal with men? You know, is it necessarily having the same things that they do and wanting those same things, or is it being uniquely equal? having our own unique strengths and weaknesses and completing one another as a result. Men and women, however, are seen as spiritual equals before God, respected and honored. And our duty is to seek knowledge throughout our lifetime. And if any culture or group is out there is denying education to women, they are not following a harsh interpretation or a strict ban of Islam. No, they're actually acting against Islam. Keep that in mind. Women have the right to take part in community life, the right to political expression. The largest Muslim country in the world, Indonesia, recently had an elected Muslim woman as head of state. I don't know how to pronounce this, Megawati Soekarno-Putri, sorry, I totally botched that word. The four largest Muslim countries in the world either currently have or have had recently women heads of state: Indonesia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Turkey. Also, the modesty and attitude and dress is important for both men and women. And what this allows is to keep sexuality from influencing relationships outside of marriage, and to allow for easier dialogue and to focus on what is said, to focus on the task at hand versus focusing on sexuality and that sexual tension. Islam does not allow women to be viewed as sex objects or valued solely for their physical attractiveness. And it forces people to really deal with women based on their character, their knowledge, their abilities. Dress code should not be forced on people, but must be worn out of their own convictions and sense of modesty. And as we see throughout the world, there are multiple cultural variations in dress, and that's all, like we talked about that cultural clutter earlier. If I must just end here real quick, I wanted to also talk about certain other prohibitions, or just prohibitions that we see in Islam as related to women. When alcohol is prohibited in Islam, not to really prevent fun or having a good time, but to prevent irresponsible behavior caused by a lack of inhibition, such as domestic violence, which is a huge thing in society now, Muslim and non-Muslim. 75% of domestic violence cases in this country are related to alcohol, actually. Drugs are also prohibited in Islam. Gambling is not allowed, so that the money that you have should be provided for the family. And that quick fix type of mentality is not really breeded. So Islam really prohibits those things that are dangerous to the social fabric of the family. And these prohibitions really build strong character. So I thank you for your time. I hope that this was, I know this was a very quick synopsis of my, I guess, beliefs and my research. But I hope that it helped enlighten some things for you. And I hope that we can walk away today with just some inspiration, some motivation to try and be like some of these women, and to really fight against the modern view of feminism, and to really challenge it. Just challenge it. At least critically think about it and say, am I in line with this modern view of feminism? What is it really to me? And how does Islam fit in this? And how can I be as strong and as empowered as can be, and at the same time a believer and worshiper of God? Any questions? No? No questions at all? Yes?
If you have the information at hand, could you elaborate, talk about the specific ahadith that you mentioned, talk about birth control or advocate birth control?
Sadly, I don't have it on me right now, but if you give me your email, I will make sure to look it up and send it to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good question. Any other questions? Joe, do you have any questions?
Well, I didn't think about this question actually, but okay, I want to raise an immediate question that is about, so I think modernity or feminism, is actually a European concept other than Islamic concept. So I didn't see any contradiction, but probably the interpretation of the terms are very different from Islamic society and the Western Christian society, if you allow me to say so. So however, I appreciate all the insights you provided in your research and in your speech as well. It's wonderful. And especially you're a student of science, not a student of humanity and social science. It's very impressive here. But I would say that I would encourage you to elaborate your research into a paper and to reincorporate, the Western ideas and interpretations into your interpretation of Islam as well. And however, I really appreciate and value the examples you give in your speech a lot.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And just to kind of comment on that, I really wanted to go into the way the modern example of feminism and where we are today, specifically as related to Islam's views on feminism, but I unfortunately did not have enough time, and I had to keep it to the scope of what I was given. But I definitely take your advice humbly and will incorporate that.
Thank you.
Yes.
I really appreciate what you had to say about the different strengths between the genders and how we can find equality through our strengths and not precisely through immediate equality. But my question sort of deals with people that are chauvinistic or otherwise anti-female and use that as an excuse to say that we have different strengths to subjugate women, and how you address that and how you speak to people that come from that sort of perspective.
Well, first of all, obviously I'm not somebody who is a scholar or is even close to that to really speak on how I would go about that situation. But from my personal opinions, I would say in any situation where there is conflict or there is discussion or debate, we need to go back to the motivation behind both sides. What is inspiring or motivating both sides to try and persuade the other for their perspective? Now, the chauvinistic man potentially has insecurities of himself, or insecurities relating to relationships, or insecurities of his manlyhood. And I believe that a strong man is an example, is one of the best examples is the Prophet Muhammad. He was strong enough to be vulnerable. He was strong enough to cry amongst his friends, his companions. He was strong enough to say "I love you" to his wife. He was strong enough to cry in her arms. I mean, the first Muslim to convert was his own wife, Khadija. After he was telling her, "Cover me, cover me." So in society, when we are faced with chauvinistic perspectives that try to manipulate the situation, it's like any other situation that's trying to be manipulated. People are using them for their own selfish reasons, and I would encourage, if you are ever stuck in that corner, to reach out and to say, and to try to reach to the root of the issue, the human issue of what's the issue with you, brother? What are you really afraid of? And obviously, if this person probably won't even use the word fear or I fear in this sentence, but to go back to the root human issue, and then to try to open up their mind by giving examples of the Prophet's life, by going back to the seerah, and by going back to the relationship that Muhammad, peace be upon him, had with his wives, and by going back to examples that I gave even today of women that are strong, that are uniquely strong as women, but were also able to exercise this power by being influential members of society. Any other questions? Okay, I'll give you guys my email too. If anything pops up, or if you're too shy to ask right now, feel free to email me. Yeah, feel free to email me. Okay, Assalamu alaikum.